Hey, we are going to discuss how the box model works using CodePen. And we're going to use HTML and CSS and discuss the difference between margin, padding, borders, as well as the box sizing property in CSS. So what is the CSS box model? It's a term that we use to describe the box that wraps around every HTML element. So that can be a div, a heading, a paragraph, or even a link tag, which is the A element. And it includes margin, border, padding, around the content. So if we want to consider the total width of an element, we're going to add all four of those together, and I'm going to show you what that means. So here we have our CodePen set up, and we are going to first create a div. And then we're going to go ahead and close it. And inside that div, let's go ahead and put an H1. Let's say hello world. And let's add some lorem ipsum. And we'll go ahead and close that. So we have a div with an H1 and paragraph copy. So in our CSS, let's go ahead and style this so we can see what we're doing. We'll give our div a width of 500 pixels. We'll add a background color. And now we see we have text, both the H1 and the P are in the div with no margin. So you can see the text is right up against the edge. So there's no padding within the element and there's no margin. So what is margin? Margin is going to be this space around the element that's on the outside where you see the white. So you'll see it shift when we add our margin. And let's just do 50 pixels all around. And you see that shifted away from the edge. So the text is still pretty close to the edge of the blue. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some padding, and that's within the element. So let's give this a padding of 50 pixels all around. And there we go. And now we've given our paragraph and H1 elements some room to breathe. So let's say we also wanted to add a border to this. We can do a border of, let's do a solid border, 10 pixels in gray. So you'll see our margin is the space that's in the white area between the border and the edge of the browser window. And then within the div element, we have padding, which is between the border and the content itself. So if we wanted to calculate the total width of this element, we'd say we have the width of 500, and then we're going to add the margin, which is on the outside, and that's 50 pixels on the left and the right. And then the padding, which is 50 pixels on the left and the right as well. So that's 500 plus 100 plus 100 is 700. And then we also have the border, which is 10 pixels on each of the sides. And that's another 20 pixels there. So it's 5, 6, 7, 720 pixels for width. So let's say we want to adjust the margin. Let's talk about inside the div what this number means. We only have one number listed for the margin. Let's say we wanted a margin that was shorter on the sides and longer on the top, so we can actually change this. So when we include just one value, that changes the dimensions for all four sides to be the same. If we have two dimensions, let's say we wanted this to be 50 pixels and 100 pixels, what that does is that adds 100 pixels to the left and the right, and 50 pixels is the top and the bottom. So if we had three numbers, then we would be defining the margin for the top, then the left and the right, and the bottom would be 25. And this also applies to padding. So we can do 50 pixels And let's say we just wanted to do 25 pixels on the left and the right, but 50 pixels on the top and the bottom. We can also specify all 4 sides. And it goes in clockwise order. So we would start with the top number or the top value first, and then the right, which is 25 pixels. The bottom is 100 pixels, and then the left is 60 pixels. So that is our shorthand. You can also specify the long way. So let's say we just wanted to do padding on the left. Do 25 pixels on the left only, or if we just wanted padding on the left and the bottom, then you can specify padding bottom 50 pixels, and you'll see we just have padding on the left and the bottom. So another helpful tool is to being able to center the content within your browser window, and that's going to be done through margin. So if we go back to the margin property, and let's say we set this to 50 pixels, and then the left to right, we're going to set to auto, and you'll see the content jump to the center. So this is a good useful way using CSS to center your content within your browser window. So if we take a look at our border property, we can specify style, which would be dotted, dashed, solid, or double, or you can even specify no style or none. We can also specify the width, the color of the border, and we can do this. What I have right now is in shorthand, but if we want to see it in the long form, just specifying each one, we can start with border style. And let's say we want to make this dashed. And all of these properties are listed in the module as well. So let's say border style dashed, and then we want to do border width. Let's do 5 pixels and a border color of, let's go back to gray. And that is the long way of doing it, or we can just condense it where we just say border. And then we're going to do the style, then the width, and then specify the color. And that's the shorthand way of doing it. Another property we can look at is box sizing. So there's a new CSS property that enables us to include the padding and the border values into the determined width of the element. So that means there has to be a width specified in the element. And then we can just use box sizing and add a property value of border box. And you'll see the content just got a little bit narrower. And what that did was it included the margin and padding inside the width of the element. So instead of being 500 pixels plus 50 pixels on each side, plus the padding on either side, all of that is condensed to fit inside the width of the content. And that is an overview of CSS box model.